One of the benefits that I have of living down here in the deep South, on the border of, Florida and Alabama, so I get to see all the Alabama political ads too during election seasons. And I can tell you firsthand, for those of you who don't live in these areas and didn't get to see them, Republican ads throughout these areas repeatedly warned of the transgender, right? Not the transgender, the transgender. And of course, the kids being indoctrinated in schools. Liberals wanting to abort every baby out there, effectively running their ads on nothing but the culture wars. And it works. Down here in the deep red South, it works. Those people go to the polls knowing that they don't have 2 pennies to rub together to keep themselves warm, knowing that they could lose their job at any minute, but they vote for Republicans because they scared me with the culture wars. I don't want my child to go to school and come back a transgender. Hell no. So they vote for Republicans. And then what do Republicans do? Each and every goddamn time, they go to Washington, D.C., and they cut the very programs that are keeping their own constituents alive. And that, of course, is what Republicans in the House of Representatives are doing right this very moment. Because the Republicans are working on what Donald Trump has called his one big beautiful bill, which is going to include the budget, which is going to include the tax breaks for people like Trump and Elon Musk and millionaires and billionaires. Like those same Republicans the red states always send to Congress, they get the tax cut too. It's not just for their donors. But they have decided this time, unlike last time, how are we going to pay for it? Well, they've got a couple ideas, but one of the big ideas, of course, is we're going to get rid of a loophole with Medicaid that allows states to get more money for the healthcare program covering low-income Americans, which, of course, if they do it, will disproportionately hurt red states. In other words, their own constituents. They're working on a plan to screw over and take away the health care of the very people that keep sending them to Washington, D.C. Because those people were so concerned about litter boxes in classrooms, which never happened anywhere, by the way, that they didn't pay attention to the actual policies these people were selling. So what's happening right now is 2 separate things. First and foremost, Republicans want to get rid of the portion of the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, that does the fund matching for states with Medicaid and provides them more on top of the fund matching. So by doing that, they're immediately stripping these states, most of them very low income states that always run huge budget deficits, don't have any money themselves. And now they're not going to have the money they need to keep low income people being able to go to the doctor and not die from preventable conditions. That's part 1. Part 2 is to close this very weird loophole that has existed since the 1980s, where states, including blue states, by the way, they both do this, but it's more prominent and more profitable in red states. But what happens is that the state will tax hospitals and nursing homes and other care centers, and then they pay the taxes. But then the state gives all that money that those hospitals and nursing homes just paid back to them. And then because they gave that money to them, the federal government matches it in Medicaid funds. So yeah, you're paying taxes, but you're not actually paying taxes. And this is a way for us to get more federal money for Medicaid. And Republicans want to close that loophole. Doing so, of course, would save, their estimates say, $600 billion. That's a lot of money, right? That's a big savings. That's, a little more than half of what the Pentagon budget's going to be. But it's also $600 billion that was being used to keep people from dying of preventable diseases and conditions. I would say that's money well spent. Not every price tag is unreasonable. And that's the thing that Republicans don't understand, and that's the thing that unfortunately their voters don't understand either. You might look at the cost of some things, especially when you see the number that says $600 billion and say, that's too much. But what is that $600 billion buying? It's buying people time. It's buying them more, better life. Because that $600 billion is not being wasted. That $600 billion is being used to allow low-income people to go to the doctor, to get cancer screenings, to get cancer treatments, to get transplants, to get bypass surgery. It's keeping people alive. So $600 billion to keep people alive here in the United States is worth it. Not every price tag is unreasonable. But the people who sent the Republicans to Washington, D.C., as per usual, they get screwed the most. It's unfair for them, and unfortunately, based on history, based on what we've seen for decades, they'll do it again next election too. Thanks for watching, everybody, and if you're not already, please subscribe to the channel. We got fresh content every day for you. And if you want to follow us across social media, make sure you check out all of the social links that we have posted in the description of this video.